Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting TIES webinar. My name is Kenny Coogan. I am a TIES associate, and we are very excited for tonight. But first, I want to just tell you a couple of things about TIES. We have active social media accounts. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. Our official website is tieseducation.org. On the YouTube channel, you can see past webinars as well as a lot of great content for elementary, middle, and high school. Something that we are actively seeking are some tips. Our motto is teachers helping teachers. We are looking for teachers who can share their expertise with us on how do you address common misconceptions when it comes to evolution. How do you address when people say it's just a theory? And how do you make children who are told that evolution is against their religion comfortable in your classroom? We're not looking for lessons or tips on natural selection and other parts of evolution. We're just looking for these three things. And if you could send us a video at tieseducation.org/tips, we're just looking for a quick 3 to 6 minute video. If your video is really great and we use it on our website, we will send you a free t-shirt. Another thing that we're really proud about is that we just published a book. It's called On Teaching Evolution. It involves hundreds of years of teachers' expertise. It's a great book. All of our resources are free, except for the book, because it is a physical printed book and we have to ship it to you. It's a great resource. In the book, there's beautiful photos, but what's really cool is that inside each chapter, there's QR codes that link you back to our website to access the free lessons that the authors write about. Just wanted to remind you that if you go to tieseducation.org/webinars, or if you go to our Facebook page, you can see upcoming webinars. For September and October, we have 3 weeks worth of webinars lined up. And during the school year, we are going to be having a lot more. A couple other programs that we're working on are Young Skeptics. And that program aims to develop and foster an understanding of the world through inquiry-based learning, something that we all want to use in our classroom. The program that we're working on is sciencesaves.org. It's created by teachers for teachers, just like all of our other programs. And these lessons promote the fact that science is helping our lives in many, many ways. What's cool about this program is that it's not just for science, but it's also for language arts teachers, math teachers, history teachers, and we also have elementary, middle, and high school levels there for you. And every year we have a scholarship. The scholarship opens up in the 2nd semester. This deadline for next year is May 8th, which happens to be my birthday. And the first place winner wins $10,000. And this is only for high school seniors. The $10,000 can be used for housing, food, pay for classes, tuition. The students can, use it for anything they need to. And the way that they enter is by simply making a little video about how science has saved or how science has improved them or someone they know. All right, at the end of this workshop webinar, if you're attending it live, we're going to be giving away 2 free books, courtesy of Dr. Tomasello's publisher. So stay tuned for that. And if you have a question, please feel free to type it into the chat box today. And then at the end, I will read it to Mike.
So since our time is limited this evening, what I want to do is I want to focus just on the very top of this, because that's where most of my research has been. This book is actually stretches me down from where my research goes. My research is about great apes and humans. And I want to understand there's the common ancestor here. I can show the little more detail here. So if we look just at the very top part of this up here of the from 20 million years on, what we'll get to is the great apes. And so roughly 16 million years ago, 15, whatever, orangutans went off in their direction. Then 6 or 8 million years ago, gorillas went off in their direction. And 5 or 6 million years ago, humans split from chimpanzees and bonobos. So I just want to think about this last segment here. And the research we've done, we've looked at all of the other 4 great apes, orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and bonobos, in comparison to humans. At our laboratory in Leipzig, Germany, where I was Max Planck director for about 18 years or so, that was our major research focus, was trying to see in what ways humans are similar to other apes and in what ways they are different. I noticed that Kenny said at the beginning that you science teachers, of course, have some issues about students in your class who might be religious or whatever, and you have to sort of sell evolution a little bit. Well, the hardest sell is humans, and that was true of Darwin as well. Darwin would have had an easy time of it if he just talked about animals evolving. That wouldn't have been so radical. It's the fact that humans are part of this same process that really sort of made it difficult for him in his time. So so this is the difficult problem of saying where humans, what happened to humans that made them so different. So if you look at the genetics, if you look at the time of divergence and you look at the genetics, humans are as close to chimpanzees and bonobos as lions are to tigers, as horses are to zebras, and as rats are to mice. So of course, those are different species. They look different, they're different. But psychologically, we kind of think lions and tigers, well, they're kind of got the same machinery, right? They kind of got the same ways of thinking and behaving in general. Of course, there are particularities, but you just think of them as sort of the same type. And horses and zebras are of the same kind of general type, and rats and mice are of the same sort of general type. But humans, the puzzle is that humans have done things like this. They've invented computers, they've built skyscrapers. So these are technological things that other creatures don't even come close to. We've created languages and Arabic numerals and the mathematical operations, which other animals don't even come close to. And we have created social institutions like universities and governments, which other animals have not even come close to. So this is what made it so difficult for people in Darwin's time and for many people today to think of humans as animals, is that we're doing all, we have operas, we have symphonies, we have skyscrapers, and the other animals are in the jungle. How can this be? Well, I would like to offer at least a little bit of an explanation. And the main idea is that none of these things you're looking at here are the inventions of single individuals. These are all collective products of culture that individuals contribute to, and they actually have a history. So we know there's a history of the computer. It starts out very crude and then it gets sophisticated. And we started out with building little small buildings, and then we ended up with skyscrapers as people improved the methods. Arabic numerals didn't have 0 at the beginning, and somebody invented 0 and we got the place value system, and there we're going. So these are all products not of individuals, but of culture, of cultures and individuals contributing. And one of the sort of thought experiments that I like to use is with students, and I think this would work very well with high school and middle school students, is get them to think about, what would you know about mathematics if you grew up on a desert island all by yourself? So you grow up on a desert island all by yourself, magically kept alive, no one to teach you anything, no Arabic numerals, no language, You know, what would you invent on your own? Would you invent a language on your own? No, of course not. You wouldn't invent English on your own. What would you know about dinosaurs? Nothing, because you wouldn't see any, nobody to tell you about them. What would you know about outer space? Nothing. So humans are pooling their cognitive resources. They are learning from others, and they are cooperating with others and communicating with others. And that's what makes it so different. And here is the process. This is something we proposed many years ago, and it's held the test of time pretty well. The idea is that humans have what we call cumulative cultural evolution, and we termed it the ratchet effect. And so here's an example. So let's say that way back, let's say 500,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago, humans were using rocks as hammers. All right. So now everybody in the group is using rocks and hammers. But then one day, some genius guy says, hey, let's tie the hammer onto a stick, and I bet it'll be more powerful. And sure enough, it is. But the one genius invented it, but then everybody else in the group gets it because they all see him doing it and they learn from it. Now, some other genius, skipping many tens of thousands of years, hundreds, all of a sudden, you know, we have metal and whatever, and somebody invents this, a sledgehammer. And then all the individuals in the group get it. And then at some point, we end up with, you know, this kind of steam-driven pile driver. So the idea of the ratchet effect is that humans pool their inventions, their ideas, their cognitive resources, and they're in this pool. And then one person makes an advance. And because we're such good communicators and social learners and teachers, everybody gets it. So I don't have to be smart enough to invent it. I just have to be smart enough to learn it after some other genius has invented it. So humans, the most amazing advances in human culture and in human inventions, all of these things are products of that process. They aren't individuals being brilliant. They are this process of cumulative cultural evolution. All right. And this depends on humans being able to put their heads together with others in unique ways. So here's the most general evolutionary sequence that I will propose. The great apes in general are very competitive. I've watched chimpanzees in the wild some. I'm not mainly a field worker. I mainly do research, do experiments, but in the lab. But I watched them in the field some, about a month. And their life is filled with competition. They're competing for food all the time. And so we talk about this as individual intentionality. They individually intend things. They individually figure out how to get their food. They travel around in groups, but they get their food and they eat their food by themselves. Now, if you look at early humans, and I can just say roughly about 500,000 years ago, maybe 1,000,000 years ago, from Homo heidelbergensis, something like that, we start seeing humans collaborating to get their food. So collaborative hunting for large game. There's collaboration in acquiring certain kinds of resources that are like roots and stuff, that are gathering, which require collaboration. And we call that joint intentionality because we have a joint goal. We jointly intend things together. So this is a new form of collaboration, and I'm going to tell you more about it as we go, but it's a new form of collaboration in which we kind of form a joint agent, a shared agent. We're working together. We have the same goal, and you have your role and I have my role, but we're going toward the same goal. And so I think the evolutionary scenario is something like that. When this started, there was selection for good cooperators. The process, the evolutionary biologist Mary Eberhard has talked about this as social selection. So if you're not a very good collaborator, then I won't choose you to collaborate. If we collaborate and we catch some game and you take it all and don't let me have any, then I won't ask you to hunt together with me tomorrow. So there is social selection. It's a natural selection, but the selection is coming from the individuals in the group who are choosing you. It's a special sexual selection, which Darwin already talked about, is a special case of that, where the females choose the males they're going to mate with. This is a case where you choose your partner to go hunting with, and you only choose the best collaborators. So there's social selection for good collaborators. And then with modern humans, this is about 100 to 200,000 years ago, we scale this collaboration up to cultures. And cultures are like huge collaborative activities. We're all cooperating together, and we have a common goal of keeping, whatever it is, but, keeping our whole group in food. If somebody goes out and catches something, they bring it back to the village and share it around. So it's really a collaborative process. Modern day hunter-gatherers are highly, highly cooperative, and they share food all around, and they're very egalitarian. And so if that is reflective of earlier humans, then it's really like one big family, one big group together. So this is the proposal, that humans have become ultra cooperative. We can come back at the end to the question of, it doesn't seem like, if you read the news every day, that humans are very cooperative. But within groups now, they're highly cooperative. The Ukrainian army and the Russian armies are cooperating within themselves to do horrible things, right? But they are cooperating. And so people, there's honor among thieves. The people in the mafia, they love their families. They take care of their kids. They're nice to their neighbors. So within your group, there's a lot of cooperation, and it's between groups where you get all the ugliness that's the dark side of cooperation, is that we evolved to be cooperative within our group. And now in the modern world, where it's not even clear where the groups are, life gets complicated. All right, and so in ontogeny, in human development, these are maturational capacities. So, and I'm going to tell you about 2 steps in human development. And one of them is at 9 months. And this is similar to the human evolution from 500,000 years ago, with collaboration, 2 individuals operating together, collaborating. And children start being different from great apes at about 9 months of age. These are still infants, 9 months of age, where they start collaborating with others in new ways, and in ways that we've done experiments showing that great apes do not do. And then at about 3 years of age, they are able to interact with others in a kind of a group, like we call them group-minded. They start understanding about conventions and norms and institutions and group level things. The children start being able to understand those and participate in those. So let me tell you what I've called this the 9-month revolution. And let me really pin it down for you here. I'm going to show you 3 things here on this slide that human children do. They engage with others in ways that great apes don't. So I'm going to show you after this great apes doing some similar things, and you'll see the difference. So let's start at the left. This is a home movie. This is my daughter when she was 9 months to the day. So I decided it's 9 months to the day. Let's see if she's going through the 9-month revolution. And so the first thing is collaboration. I want to play a little collaborative game with her. Now watch her. We're going to roll the ball back and forth, but watch where she looks. She's looking up at me the whole time because we're doing this together. All right, now watch. So I roll it to her. She has a little trouble at first, but now she's going to roll it back and then look to my face. Is that right? Did I do it right? Okay. She gets it again. She rolls it back and looks up to my face and roll it back. She has a little bit of trouble again and rolls it back. All right. And it comes back again and and then she looks to the face. All right. So we are really doing this together, and it's important. She's monitoring my attention, and this is sometimes called joint attention. I have another thing over here that is like that as well, where we're looking at it together, we're reacting to it together, and that's why we call it shared intentionality. We're sharing our experience. Now, if you look down at the bottom, human babies communicate not just when they want something, but also just for this reason. Now, this happens fairly quickly, so watch this, and you want to know, what's the motivation of this little boy here? Isn't this cool? That's all he's saying. Isn't this cool? You know, and he's just sharing. And the only motivation, he doesn't want anything. He doesn't want the father to operate it or anything. He's just showing it to him. And young children about 9 to 12 months start showing things. Now you may say, oh, that's cute. Little infants do that. But, you know, we adults do different things. No, I would say this is essentially what we do all day, every day when we're gossiping and chatting with other people. This is what we do when we're posting on Facebook. We're saying, look at this. Isn't it interesting? And it's motivating. We like sharing. Okay, my daughter is now 11 years old, and, you know, we can't go out in the woods without taking pictures and posting them because we want to share. All right. And so this sharing motive is very much part of human experience. And again, other apes and other animals don't have this need to just share experience. And now the third one here is joint attention. And this is the classic book reading. But the main thing is, yes, the child's interested in the book. Mom's pointing to things, but what? He has to look back and check with mom to make sure we're sharing this. There we go. Okay, that's great. And then she points to the same thing mom pointed to, and we're sharing attention. Okay. This acting together collaboratively and communicating and sharing experience together, this is all indicative of a way that humans relate to one another that is ultimately going to be behind this kind of thing. All right, that we really are pooling our experience, and we're sharing it with social learning and communication and so forth and collaboration. Now, here's a human-raised chimpanzee about 3 years old with basically the same toys. And she's interested in the toys. This is Annette. She was raised by humans. And she's basically interested in the toys. But watch, she doesn't share. So the human is going to grab the ball and try to initiate some kind of interaction or game. She grabs it and she bounces it, hoping to initiate a game with Annette, this is. And Annette is interested in the ball, but she's not interested in sharing it. And she's playing by herself with the ball. She's not referencing the human. Okay. You can see she's got her own way of doing things. Now I had a little break. Now the adult human is going to show her stuff in the book, just like the mom with the baby in the previous picture. And she's interested. Annette is interested in the pictures. But she's not turning back to share. She's not pointing out things to the human. They're not engaged. They're not engaged with one another the way that the human baby and the mother are. And then one other final thing here is Annette will get the book herself, and she'll be interested in it. But unlike the little girl, she won't be pointing to the pictures and turning around and looking to mom and referencing things. So our proposal is that already at 9 months of age, you can see uniquely human forms of cooperative social engagement. Humans are uniquely cooperative. Sometimes people talk about ultra cooperative. Yes, other social species are cooperative in a general way, but humans are kind of ultra cooperative. So I would say, here's the kind of idea. This is what makes it so powerful, this shared intentionalities, the shared intentionality schema. I call it dual level. It's on 2 levels. So we have a joint goal. We're looking at a book together. We're rolling a ball back and forth together. So we have a joint goal. We're doing it together. We have joint attention to what we're doing. We're looking at things. We're sharing experience. We both see this block and whatever, and we smile at one another to show that we know we're both looking at the block. But you have your role and I have my role. You have your perspective on the situation and I have my perspective on the situation. And you need to have this shared part. You need to have the shared intentionality for there even to be the idea of a role or a perspective. A role is something you're doing in the context of some shared goal, of some larger something. You have a role in it, you're playing a role. And when you're jointly attending to something, we're jointly attending to this watch together, if you're looking at my video, but you see the backside of it and I see the front side of it. If you're just looking out your window and I'm looking out my window, we just see different things. But if we're sharing attention, then the notion of perspective operates. So I think that that humans have these different roles to play in cooperative activities and different perspectives on things when they share attention to things. And that this dual level is one of the things that makes human cognition so special, is that we have this very flexibility. I can look at the same exact animal and I can say it's a dog, it's an animal, it's a pet, it's a pest, it's a gift from grandma. Okay, I can look at the same object from a lot of different perspectives at the same time. I don't believe other animals have that kind of flexibility of perspective. And I think with humans, it comes from this kind of joint engagement. And again, it's just to keep reminding myself that because we're talking to people who are interested in evolution, and in evolution, we're mostly interested, classically in animals and the evolution of the entire biosphere. But again, humans are the hard case, and they're the ones that gave Darwin trouble. They're, Alfred Lord Wallace, who was the co-inventor of natural selection, could never get past the idea that humans were different. So that's the context. So what I want to do now is just go through several different domains of interaction and show how this shared intentionality, this idea that we have put our heads together in some way, is fundamentally different than just the more individualistic way of doing things, characteristic of most other creatures. And if someone wants to ask me questions about the group hunting of lions or wolves at the end, I'm happy to discuss that as well. So communication. So one of the things that we've studied a good bit is the gestural communication of great apes. And they are very intentional and deliberate and flexibly used. And so you can see here, this is a 2-year-old getting mom to go for a walk. And you see it's very deliberate. Come, mom, come. So she's doing this. But we've looked at, for 20 years now, we've been documenting some of their gestural communication, and it's all dyadic. It's all about you and me grooming, playing, fighting, walking together, having sex. It's all communications, communicative signals regulating your and my face-to-face interaction. And what human children are doing is this. They are pointing to share attention to some third entity, or the other little boy who held up the block. It's, I want the two of us to focus on this thing. So this is the basis of uniquely human communication. And language, what is language? Language is you and me sharing attention to some third entity. I say, did you see that ball game last night? So you and I are sharing experience about the ball game. Or I'm saying, look at that pretty mountain over there. And you and I are sharing, I'm communicating about some third entity. Right? And the apes are not doing that. The apes are just regulating their interactions, their fighting, their grooming, their play, their travel. They're regulating their face-to-face interaction, and they're not sharing attention to some third entity. So this sharing is the basis of language. Language is all about sharing experience. And we develop, this is just pointing, this is the first step, but we develop now, that's an act of reference. The child is referring the father's attention to something over there. She doesn't want it. She's just saying, isn't that cool? And ultimately, a few months after this, she's going to say something like, birdie or something. She's going to use a convention to direct her father's attention to something external. So this is uniquely human communication, and it depends on sharing attention and knowing that we're sharing attention. And here's the same picture, the one you had before, but I just think it's so dramatic that the only motivation is just sharing. Now, collaboration, again, you saw that one example of collaboration, but now I'm going to show you a couple of experiments. The motivation to collaborate. Watch this. This little boy is 18 months old and is just having so much fun with this game. All right. And the adult is being difficult on purpose. Now, you saw that point there. Let me go back here. Okay, so there is again sharing attention to this ball. In this case, the child doesn't want the ball. She's not requesting it himself. What he wants is him to put it back on the trampoline, which he does. And now he's being difficult. The experiment is the adult's being difficult on purpose. And we want to watch what the child does when the adult's being difficult. The adult's being difficult again on purpose. And the child gets it for him, but he got it for him in order to keep collaborating, in order to play the game. Okay, and this is just fun. All right, now again, he's going to be difficult on purpose, and you'll watch how motivated the child is to collaborate. Okay, so, all right, and now, all right, we have to keep at it. Now, here is Annette again. You met Annette before, raised by humans, and this is a little problem-solving apparatus where she has to lift up that door, which she's doing now, and the human will reach in and get the food, and they'll share it together. But just like the human adult in the previous thing, she's going to be difficult on purpose. And let's see what happens. Does the chimp try to get her back in the way that that little boy did? And the answer is no. What she does is she comes around and tries to get in there herself. All right. She doesn't try to get the adult to play her role again. She tries to get it herself. So she doesn't really understand this notion of we each have our role. And if you're not playing your role, then I need to encourage you to play your role. And now another important aspect of collaboration. Now you're going to see the chimps doing some impressive collaboration here, but they have a certain problem. So this is an apparatus that you have to pull in together, and you have to pull together because if you pull the rope yourself, it just threads through. You have to pull together. So if you come up to it by yourself,
so what will the chimpanzee do?
So she doesn't pull because she knows if she pulls, it'll just pull out the rope. And she actually goes and lets out the other one, and they pull in together. So this shows that she really knows that she needs a partner. So she understands that collaboration is necessary. And this is really impressive. We were blown away by the chimps going over and unlocking the cage and letting the other one in. But now people ask me sometimes, if collaboration is so powerful, why haven't the chimps evolved to collaborate more? And the answer is, we're going to put the food in the middle now. We're going to put the food in the middle, and so they have to now figure out a way to share
in this situation,
the spoils.
Chimpanzees help each other.
Okay, so in this one, they work together. Now the food is in the middle.
Two chimps still help each other as humans would.
So this one here is the dominant one. The other one is subordinate. She knows she's subordinate. She's not enthusiastic because the food's in the middle.
It's the cranking. But the dominant chimpanzee grabs all the food.
Okay, so you can imagine what happens on the next trial. On the next trial, the subordinate chimpanzee quits. Because what's in it for me? The collaboration, if the dominant's going to take everything, then that's it. So this is why I was saying this is the kind of situation that in humans, somebody who did that, who took all the food, would never be selected again. And they wouldn't get to participate in collaborative foraging. Now look at little children. These are 3-year-old children. These are German children. They have gummy bears in the middle. So we're not doing the situation the condition where the food's separated. This is where the food is in the middle. They're German children. They're speaking German, but there's subtitles at the important points. All right, they're going to pull in together. They're gummy bears. There are 4 gummy bears in the middle of the thing. All right, they're going to pull in. They know how to do this. And now this one little boy, the reason I chose this video is because this little boy acts like the chimp. He goes right over there, but he doesn't take all 4 of them. He only takes 1, I think. And this other little boy is kind of passive, and he says, I don't have any over here. There's none over here. And then he comes over. He starts to actually take the other 3. The first boy says, no. So he leaves 2 for the other boy. And now they end up dividing them equally. Okay, so you can see this is cooperative in a way that the way the chimps were operating is not. We've done this several studies along these lines, and almost all the children divided equally. These are 3-year-old children, and they're not mathematical geniuses, but they know that 2 and 2 is a fair amount for each. And if one of the kids takes more, like that kid started to, the one says, no, no, and they don't do it. So they have mechanisms for sharing the spoils of the collaboration that apes don't have. So they're better at coordinating, but also at sharing the spoils at the end. Now, if you think about the cumulative cultural evolution and the ratchet effect, one of the key things here is social learning. And one of the things that we do that apes don't do is we teach. So you all are teachers. You should appreciate this, that teaching is mainly uniquely human. There are some examples, lions teaching their cubs and so forth. And there are a couple of examples of things that might be teaching, but we humans do this all the time. Now, this woman, this adult, watch what she does. She's going to, the child, we know from having the child do some things before, that this child will, if she's going to turn on the light, she'll do it with her hand. And the adult's going to do it with the ball. Okay, and now the child, her normal way of doing it is with the hand. And now the adult shows her how to do it. And of course, she takes the ball. And then she looks up to the adult. Is that right? Did I do it right? Okay, so this kind of interaction, this teaching, is passing on information across generations in a way that other apes don't do. And here's how powerful that is. Here's a case. This is a 5-year-old little girl now. And she says, oh, and the adult tells her, we need to get this rice. We're going to take this rice from this bowl and put it in this bucket. And the adult says, okay, here, we're going to do this. And I'm going to show you how to take the rice into the bucket. So you saw what she did. I'll show you again, just so you make sure you see. She raises her hands in the air. Then she comes and does this and brings it over to there. And now it's the child's turn. And she does this utterly useless thing because this is the way we do it, sometimes called over imitation or conformity. And you can even ask the child later, did you need to put your hands up in the air to get the rice over there? And they'll say no. Well, then why did you do it? Well, because that's the way you do it. So this is part of the ratchet effect. Part of this cumulative cultural evolution is that adults teach and make sure that children learn things, and children conform to the way adults do things, even when that behavior is not really necessary. And chimpanzees, we've done a number of studies with chimpanzees, and they just do whatever is the sort of smartest thing to do, and the children will do dumb things if it involves imitation. So they are, but they're not in a simple situation like this. They're not smarter than the apes. They're just more social in their copying. I was going to show you an example of orangutan thinking. I'm trying to monitor my time here. Basically, the chimp is figuring out which is the right tool to use. I can show you very quickly. She comes in and chooses the right tool. Sorry, it's not working. So there we go. Yikes, I'm frozen. Getting the wheel of death. Okay, let's go back here. Something about that video wasn't working, sorry. And what we get with kids And again, if you're teaching middle school or high school science, you are looking at a lot of cooperative thinking, and science in general is cooperative. We work in teams. Nobody does science by themselves anymore. Not that they ever did much, but certainly not now. And so cooperative thinking is the kind of thing that you observe every day in your classroom, where somebody gives an idea, somebody criticizes it, somebody gives another perspective, and they end up in a place that no one of them by themselves would end up with. Apes don't know how to put their heads together like this. Social norms. This is again about conforming. And this is a little 3-year-old. And the child has learned the rules to the game. And now the game doesn't matter what the rules are. But what you're going to see is that a new puppet comes in and plays the game the wrong way. And you'll see what the little 3-year-old child says. So right and wrong, the right way to play it, the wrong way to play it. So again, this is part of the cultural ratchet, is not just that we learn things from others, but we learn the right ways to do things and the wrong ways to do things. And you talked about in cheating, breaking the rules. Okay, and finally, let me give you, if you think that somehow this behavior and cognition are kind of hard to touch, and you want a physiological difference between apes and humans that might be related to this cooperation, if you look on the left, that's a young chimpanzee, and there are roughly 200 species of non-human primates, and all of them have eyes that look like this. That is, if you're looking straight ahead, you can't see the white sclera. If they look to the side, you can see a little bit, but if they're looking straight ahead, you can't see any. And that's true of almost all mammals. And it's true of all primates, except for humans. So you look on the right here, you can see that this child has whites of their eyes quite prominent. So it makes it very easy to see where she's looking. Now, if you think again from the point of view of natural selection, it's clear why it's to the advantage of someone that's in my group to know where I'm looking. All right, so maybe they'll see the predator first, maybe they'll be able to anticipate what I'm going to do next. But why is it to my advantage that other people follow my gaze direction? If I am evolving large white sclera that make it easier for others to follow my gaze direction, it must be of some benefit to me that they follow my gaze direction. And so we proposed that it was only in a situation of cooperation would that hold, that I want you to follow my gaze direction because I want to get in joint attention. I want us to coordinate when we're doing a collaborative activity and so forth. And the experiment that we did was we looked up either with our eyes closed or we looked up just with our eyes. And it turns out that chimpanzees follow the head no matter what your eyes are doing, and children follow the eyes no matter what your head is doing. So children are using the eyes to follow gaze direction. So finally, let me just wrap up by saying that human children are adapted for cooperation and culture in ways that other great apes are not. And so if someone asks you, wants to know about humans in evolution and why are they so different, they evolved to put their heads together. No one individual invented language. No one individual invented a computer. This is all right. A child on a desert island. My proposal is that a child who came to maturity on a desert island would have cognitive and social skills as an adult, very much like other great apes. This is your Robinson Crusoe experiment. You can also imagine a Lord of the Flies experiment, where it's just a bunch of young babies growing up by themselves with no adults. So if you use those kind of thought experiments, you can see how important culture is, that most of the stuff that, that the kids in your classes know, and most of the stuff they know how to do, they've learned from others and they've gotten from others. And this is a point that I think really turns on a light bulb for a lot of young people. I have my freshmen in my university class, a lot of them it's like a light bulb goes on when they really understand that yes, I'm smart, but I'm smart. I wouldn't be smart if I grew up on my own. I'm smart because I'm able to take advantage of all the stuff around me in my culture. So humans are adapted for cooperation and culture in ways that other apes are not. And these adaptations are fundamental to uniquely human processes of cognition, communication, cooperation. And I didn't talk much about it tonight, but even morality as well, feeling of obligation to people in your group and so forth. Okay, so that's my spiel about the evolution of humans and how they got to be so different. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That was fantastic. We do have several questions, so if you're attending this webinar live, feel free to enter in the chat box. I did want to mention, I just put in the chat box that there's free resources based on Dr. Tomasello's research, and it is from a postdoc. His name is Dustin Erdosh, and he said he encourages teachers to reach out to him to talk about how they can implement your research into their classroom. All right, so we got about 7 more minutes. We have a couple of questions. Okay, so John wants to know, how would you characterize symbiosis, collaboration, or sharing between and among unrelated species?
So that's a really interesting, one of the ways I have characterized how humans are ultra cooperative is that they are all symbiotic with one another. Now, I understand that in biology, symbiosis is almost always between species, but it's the same general idea, is that I depend on you and you depend on me. My central concept in evolution is not reciprocity, which a lot of people depend on, because reciprocity, I sacrifice for you and then you sacrifice for me. But interdependence is like symbiosis. You're doing what you normally do and I take advantage of it, and I'm doing what I normally do and you take advantage of it. So I think symbiosis is, even though it's not normally used within a species, I think that's exactly the concept that humans have become symbiotic with one another in a way, in a special way compared to other primates.
Danielle would like to know more about your thoughts about how sharks cooperatively hunt, and then lions and wolves.
Yes. So you saw the real problem with the chimps was not that they couldn't sort of get it together to do it. It's that they know they're going to fight over the food. They've got dominance and stuff. So when it works with like lions and sharks and stuff, it's because the carcass is large enough that everybody gets some. So we collaborate because everybody's going to benefit. What we did in that experiment was we had a small bit and the dominant just dominated it and the subordinate just quit. So the collaborative hunting of lions and sharks and other whales as well is because the carcass is large enough that everybody gets some. And so one of the things you've got to solve if you're going to go beyond just what those guys do is a way to share. And of course with humans, when you get to the level of culture, they'll go hunt something and they'll bring it back to the village and share it all around the village, even to people that weren't hunting. So it's collaborative on this larger level as well.
So I have a question about the chimp experiment, and so does Jennifer. In the study where the subordinate chimp held the device and then he or she kind of lost out, have you ever tried it with chimps that have equal status? So instead of, a dominant subordinate. And then my follow-up is, have you done that experiment with bonobos? Because bonobos and chimps forage differently.
Good. So the answer is yes and yes. That is, what we can do is we can vary the dominance relation, and the more similar they are, the more they will share, but they still don't do it very well. They sort of tolerate one another feeding, but one of them kind of tries to push the other one away a little bit. So it's gentler, but they still do it. And my colleague Brian Hare did it with bonobos, and they were a little bit better than chimpanzees at sharing, but they're not like the kids. So the kids do it equally. And I didn't show you one other experiment where we rigged it where one of the kid gets more than the other one from collaborating, and they hand over some to the other guy to share and make sure that it's equal. So those are really good questions. Yes, if they're more tolerant and equal in dominant status, it improves the situation, but it still doesn't get it to the level that humans are doing it.
Did you know that Brian did a webinar for us?
No, I didn't. Did he do dogs?
Yes, he did. It was about a year ago. And Larry has a question. I don't know if it's related to Brian's work or your work, but he says, what about the relationship between domesticated animals and their owners? And then I'll add that Bertha, after the Brian webinar, Bertha started like pointing to see if her dog could follow it, and at least one of her dogs did.
Yes. Brian was my undergraduate student and then a postdoc. And so we go back, and as an undergraduate, he came to me and the chimps were not understanding pointing. I didn't show you those studies, but we were pointing, and the reason is because they don't understand that you're trying to help them cooperatively find something. And Brian said, as an undergraduate student now, he said, my dogs can do this. And I said, oh yeah, people think their dogs can do everything. And sure enough, he took the video home. His parents lived out in suburban Atlanta. I was teaching at Emory at the time. And he came back with videotapes and data showing that his dogs did this. But here's the thing, just if, since we just have a short time, that I want to impress upon you about the dogs. And I don't know whether Brian stressed this or not, but the dogs don't do this with other dogs. We've tried several times to put two dogs together and see if they do anything interesting, and they just do dog things when the two dogs are together. All right. They don't point for one another. They don't collaborate with doing things, they just do their thing. So this is really a domesticated, a product of domestication, and it's a special way for them to interact with humans. So it's an interspecies system of social interaction and communication. It's not a normally evolved one. In case a lot of you guys may know this, but chapter 1 in Origin of the Species is about domestication. So Darwin thinks that domestication is a perfect example of selection, just in this case, selection by humans instead of natural selection.
We have at least one really good lesson on domestication of crops and animals in our free resources. Great. I also put a link to your book for those of you that are interested. And Bertha is the director of TIES, and she said that both of her dogs were able to follow the point within 20 minutes.
Great, wow.
And she says, Sarah Hardy's books, Mother Nature and Mothers and Others, mention the importance of cooperation and collaboration in humans. Have you heard of her work?
Oh, yes, I have. And so she has a slightly different story than mine, but they really go together. Her story is more about cooperative breeding, and cooperative childcare. So her story is that if you look at chimpanzees and bonobos and gorillas and orangutans, the mother takes care of the baby 100% and nurses and just takes care of it. Nobody helps. Whereas with humans across societies, whether they're hunter-gatherers or modern human, in civilizations and with daycare centers and kindergartens, after the very first few weeks, when it's constant nursing, after that initial period, human mothers take care of their infants on their babies on average about 50%, and it's fathers and grandparents and daycare centers or friends or whatever. So she says this is where humans learn to be cooperative, is in cooperative childcare. And I think that's part of the story, but I don't think that story gets you to the complicated cognitive things like language and social norms and institutions. So as a psychologist, I've been a lot more interested in some of these cognitive outcomes. And so I think what she's talking about gets you a kind of a cooperative motivation and spirit. And I still think you need to do this coordination in something like hunting to get to the complicated communication and coordination. So
we have one question and one comment, and then I'm going to announce the winners of your book. So Jennifer says there have been studies that have looked at domestic dogs following human gaze and also following humans pointing to things, but this is purely anecdotal, but I've experienced and have seen other people's dogs do this to their owners. A dog looks in the direction of a toy that they want the owner to pick up. Do you know if this has been investigated?
Brian and I have a study where the dogs will, we hung up like on a clothesline, 3 different buckets widely spaced, and the dog sees you hide food in one of them, and then a new person comes in who doesn't know where it is, and the dog will bark at and go toward where the food is. So yeah, you know, an interesting thing, I have a dog, and my dog will go to the pantry and where the food is to let me know it's time to eat. But an interesting thing is when she runs out of water, she doesn't know what to do, because we get water from the sink, and so because it's not sort of spatially salient somehow, she doesn't. So it's interesting. They can do some things, but it has to be very concrete and spatially salient.
So since you mentioned the war between Russia and Ukraine, Larry says both Pope Francis and the Dalai Lama have each separately said that recently humanity needs now more than ever to be cooperative and less competitive.
Absolutely, but this is what all I would say is, you know, as scientists, we would advocate for not ignoring facts, and it is a fact that humans have an in-group, out-group mentality. This is part of our evolution. And it makes sense, right? So when we were back in hunter-gatherer days, I trusted the people that I know that are in my group, that talk like me, that eat like me, that think like me. I trust them. I see them every day. They're going to have to live with me later. These strangers over there, it's not that I hate them, but I'm just not sure, you know? And so I think being uncertain, just because you know less about them, you can predict them less, you don't trust them as much because you don't know. This is a natural human tendency. And if this is causing problems in the world today as it is, then we have to work hard to try to find a way to get around it. But we can't put our head in the sand and say, let's all hold hands and say kumbaya and act like we don't have this issue, because we do. And there are also studies showing that even people like us, people who are absolutely not prejudiced in any way overtly, if you give people, you flash something really quick in front of their eyes, and it's somebody who looks very strange and different from them versus it's somebody who looks similar to them, they are a little more, their fear response goes up a little bit more to the strange person, even though consciously they hold no discriminatory beliefs. So I just think we can't put our heads in the sand about this. This is part of human psychology that we have to understand better if we're going to overcome it.
We will end on those wonderful positive words. I hope that everyone is appreciating our TIES webinars. We'll be holding them through the school year. Next week and the following week, 2 weeks in a row, actually including this one, 3 weeks in a row, we have webinars. I have randomly selected 2 door prize winners. They are Danielle Turk and Jennifer Valvo. Please email me your address, and then I will forward that to Mike's publisher, and they will get you a free copy. And Mike, we thoroughly appreciate it. And we're excited to incorporate your research into our classes.
Well, my daughter is in the 6th grade this year, and they're actually doing some stuff on human evolution and the early civilizations, and it's great. It's really great. I'm having fun talking to her about it.
Very good. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.